Next guest is probably the most high accomplished karateka we've had on the show. He's earned the title of 14 times WACO Kickboxing Champion, 5 times WACO European Kickboxing Champion, and 23 times WACO British Kickboxing Champion. Elijah Everill, how you doing, mate?
I'm all right, mate. Thank you. Yeah, as you can see, very, very sweaty. Just finished up a good session with my coach Yannick, and we did a bit of sparring after as well with some of the guys here at the CoreFit gym in Birmingham. So yeah, feeling great, mate.
Nice. That's awesome to hear, man. There's one thing I had to ask you, before we get into kind of the whole crux of this conversation. So I read this literally right before the interview. Oh, that's freaking cool. The reason why you got into this sport is because you're a big fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
What's your favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle?
Do you know what? I think from when I was a kid, it was Michelangelo. I think I liked him the best because he was the guy who was like always cracking jokes and stuff, and he was the funny Ninja Turtle. So I think he was my favorite.
Nice, man. I had to ask you that, but I also saw another picture. All those trophies, man. You got so many trophies. I know I probably know the answer to this, but what's your favorite one?
The next one, of course it is. But no, honestly, out of all of those trophies, I think probably the ones that like mean the most to me anyway would be the Irish Open Grand Champion. Because that in our sport, in sport karate, the Irish Open is it's like the Super Bowl. That's the biggest event that you can enter. And the open weight division is 100 plus people, and all of the best fighters from all over the world are in that division. So you can be fighting from 9 in the morning until like 8 o'clock at night. It's that busy, You'd be waiting like hours sometimes in between fights. So that's the one that means the most. That's got the most prestige there. And also my first ever trophy that I got, because that really set the tone for me. And that was the Student of the Year award that I got from my club. And it's only a tiny little trophy, but that one means a lot to me as well.
Is that the one that kind of that first title that you're like, you know what, I want to just pursue this like fully now. I want to get more titles. Was that the kind of catalyst?
I mean, when you're a kid, you just want the shiny stuff, don't you? But for me, I think I always, from when I was little, I always had the goal of becoming a professional fighter. But that was the first trophy that I ever got. So I think that really just made me believe in myself a little bit more, and people were recognizing my hard work. And then I just continued to put in that work from there, and keep fighting. And I managed to get, a good collection of trophies. So
yeah, definitely, man. So you're joining, you've joined Karate Combat now. Last 2 fights, in fact. First fight, incredible KO. Second fight was incredible as well. Beautiful technical fight. What was the inspiration behind joining Karate Combat?
Well, really, they're quite a new league. I think they only started in 2018, so they're very young. But I'd heard of them because a few of my sport karate companions were already in there. I'm really good friends with Ross Levine. Ross Levine is the current middleweight champion in the Karate Combat division. And then more recently, I think Ross was one of the first ones in there actually from our world. And then more recently, Raymond Daniels, who's like my big brother, and Robbie Lavoie, who's like my little brother, even though he's older than me. Those two got in it as well. And I think what happened, really, obviously I was always interested in joining that league. I'd seen it. I really enjoyed watching it as a fan. And when those two were in it as well, or those three guys were in it, I was watching it more closely and following a little bit more. And after lots of conversations with Ross, with Ray, with Robbie, they asked me, would this be a step that you'd want to take? And of course I was like, if ever the opportunity comes about, then I would love to. And it did. The opportunity did come about. I think they were talking about me with the president at the time, and he was interested. He'd seen some of my footage, so they decided to give me a shot, and just kind of went from there.
Yeah, and going by what you said about Raymond Daniels, I did a deep dive on your Instagram, and I saw that he's the first post on your Instagram as well. Massive inspiration there. He was one of the first guys to kind of inspire you to pursue the sport. What
Yeah.
was your experience as a young child, kind of first seeing Raymond Daniels compete, and how did that shape you as a young fighter?
Yeah, well, Raymond is like the Michael Jordan of what we do. He is undoubtedly the greatest of all time. You can't even really argue. You know, he's been that
Yeah,
dominant over that many years. The Irish Open Grand Champion I was just talking about there. I have one of those titles. Ray has 10. So, you know, he was the man, and he still is the man. And you know, just to put it into perspective, I think the Irish Open's been running since the 90s, right? And
yeah,
there's only ever been 7 champions. So it's ran
damn,
every year until, until 2020, and there's only been 7 champions. The reason for that is because Ray was so dominant and he won so many in a row. The last Irish Open was 2020, but you know, because it had been going since the 90s, having only 7 winners just because Ray was so dominant really for so many years, it made it difficult for anybody else to get their hands on one of those titles. So, but yeah, going back to your question, really the first experience I had of Ray was quite funny actually, because I was going to the Irish Open as a kid. I think I must have been maybe 10, 11. And my coach, Lee Matthews, who I'm still great friends with to this day. He's like my crazy uncle Lee is, and we have a business together as well in our martial arts school. Um, but yeah, he was at the airport with us on the same flights, and he was saying, "There's this guy called Raymond Daniels that's going to be here at this event. He comes over from the United States every year. Like, you want to keep an eye on him. Like, he's amazing." And we were like, okay, cool. And it actually turned out that day Ray fought against Lee. So I was watching like my instructor fight Raymond, who's this like superstar, and you know, it was a good fight, but Ray at the end sort of caught him with like a jump spinning head kick, something like real crazy move, and you know, ever since then really I was keeping an eye on him, watching his fights, and you know, his style anyway is eye catching, so people are just generally want to watch him fight because of the fun things that he does in there. But yeah, he really inspired me from that point on, and from then really he was my idol growing up, and that's why I always aspired to be like.
yeah, definitely, man, definitely. How is it kind of obviously karate combat is a little bit more different. I really like what the president is trying to do, where he's incorporating a little bit of grappling into striking art. Because he raised a good point in boxing or kickboxing. You know, it's all sports that you liked here, but if it goes to a knockdown, the guy's given a rest, which is a bit unrealistic. You know, you can have a bit
Yeah.
more ground and pound. If you could implement something like that, where someone can't just rest in the ground and you know, just take their time to get up. How was
Yeah.
it kind of adjusting to those rules?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different. And the rules have actually been changing since even I started. So there's been more recent changes under the new presidency and
The
stuff.
thigh, isn't it? The thigh kick now you could do.
Yeah, well, that's one of them that's brand new. But
Yeah.
even going back to like the ground and pound, it used to be 5 seconds. So you used to be able, you get the knockdown, and then you'd have 5 seconds, and you'd hear like a speaker going 5, 4,
Yeah.
3. But now it's just until the other guy can intelligently defend himself, get to a stalling position, or stand up. That's the only time that the fight will go back to standing. Other than that, the fight continues on basically on the ground. So you have to know essences of jiu-jitsu. You have to know your way around the ground, or even just how to neutralize somebody that wants to strike you on the ground. So I've recently started adding things like that into my training. I already did jiu-jitsu before anyway. I'm a blue belt, so I've been doing it for a little while. But I just for the fun of it really. But now it's even more relevant to what we're doing. So I'm paying more attention to the jiu-jitsu, and then with one of my coaches, Yannick, he's really helping me because he's an MMA guy. So he's really helping me in that side of it as well, transitioning from being on the ground to getting back up and so forth. And even from an offensive point of view, when somebody's on the ground, how to ground and pound correctly, how to take position correctly. So these are all things that I'm adding into my game.
Yeah, I mean, even the first fight, your debut, you had some vicious ground and pound. Was that something that you worked on extensively going into that debut? You're like, if I see the opportunity for ground and pound, I'm just gonna go and viciously try and finish it, which is great.
Yeah, to be honest, we did do some work on the ground and pound before then, but to be honest, I think my instincts just kicked in. You know, once I'd done the kick and I saw him I kind of saw his eyes roll into the back of his head. So he wasn't really able to defend himself anyway. So I just jumped on him and used my instincts. Actually, my first instinct was to stomp on his head. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. I was going to ask you.
Yeah. I mean, when I first seen him down, I think it was the way that he landed and the position I landed as well. It kind of made sense to me in that split second to just lift my leg up and plant like an axe kick on him. But I had to really make a quick decision there, because when his arse touched the ground, obviously the kicks aren't legal then. The kicks are only legal when they're against the pit wall. And I'd seen his arse touch the ground, so I didn't want to kick him just in case they gave me like a no contest or something, you know. So I wanted to be really careful, and I just went into punching him instead. But that was pretty much instinctive, I'd say, rather than something we drilled. But yeah, it definitely works well.
Yeah, you could actually visually see it as well. You're like this, and then you're like, no, I can't do that.
Yeah, it was like a split second. Like I saw the moment, but literally at that moment when I lifted my leg up, his arse touched the ground. So it's better to not risk getting that win overturned, you know.
Yeah. So just moving forward, there was a podcast I saw, a podcast you did. I believe it was with your coach or business partner. With that, he mentioned something quite important. In fact, you said that, you know, how do you deal with high pressure situations when a lot of people, they kind of fold under pressure? And then you had a great answer to that. You go, I enjoy it. You know, I enjoy the moment. I'm aware of the moment. And it also kind of gave me kind of comparisons to MVP. Michael Venom Page said the same thing. I'm aware of the moment. I'm enjoying the moment. That's the reason why I can do all this silly stuff and celebrate and, you know, kind of take it all in.
Yeah.
That's something that's,
you know what?
You.
Yeah, this is the thing. And Michael's someone that's been in the same boat as me, you know, because we took the same route to get here. Obviously, he's doing more MMA, but, you know, we've both transitioned from the point fighting to a full contact sport now. So people forget, like, people don't realize in the sport karate, we've been in those pressure situations thousands of times. You know, Michael's been in many big fights, open weight finals, fighting the likes of Ray and Ross and people like that. And I've done the same as well. Like I've been doing this for many years. I've had world title fights, European title fights with big pressure, team events, things like that, where, you know, they're high pressure situations. But I've always just believed in seeing opportunity over pressure, or, you know, people think of it always as a negative, and pressure is not a negative. It's telling you that there's something up for grabs here. There's something that you can make yourself a legend, you know. And people shy away from those moments, but I want those moments. I want more of them, and hopefully in my career I get the chance to have many more of those moments. But people crumble under it because they feel like it's a negative energy infesting, I think. And for me, I just see opportunity. I'm just ready to take it with both hands. If ever I get a moment like that, you know, I actually perform better in those situations rather than let it hinder me. So the more pressure, the better.
Yeah, I mean, is that something that you had as a small child? Because 99% of fighters, that, you know, they're somewhat the opposite almost. You know, they
Yeah. Well, to be honest, it was my dad that taught me all these lessons. My dad took a big role as my coach, and he still is to this day. You know, we work with each other all the time, and we have these conversations all the time about these kinds of things in top level sports. But when I was a kid, he used to make me read books, and I used to have this one book that was that used to explain, like, I think it might have been he used to do like ones with quotes in from like Zig Ziglar, and then there was another one that was all about dealing with fear, because obviously it's a common thing with kids, isn't it, that they get scared when they go into a fight or a competition or something like that, you know. So it was a book that basically explained exactly what it was, and that it was adrenaline, not fear. And it goes back to like when we were cavemen and we had to hunt for our food and things like that, and it's ingrained in our DNA that is there to kick in those moments where we sense danger. But without it, you're not going to be as sharp. You know, you have to have that there in order to perform better. And people, again, they look at it when they feel it, they're like, oh, I'm nervous. Well, I don't even let the kids at my gym use the word nervous, because I say that's an uneducated way of saying it. I say, no, what you're feeling right now is adrenaline, and you can choose how you want to use it. You can let it take over your body, and you can panic.
Oh man, are you
Hello.
there?
Yeah, yeah, I'm there. You're right.
Technology, man.
I know,
Yeah,
nightmare in it.
yeah, yeah. So, just going back to that, I think you mentioned a book that you're reading to kind of overcome that.
Yeah,
If you just go through that bit again, yeah.
yeah, sure. It goes back to when I was a kid, really, because obviously this is something that kids really struggle with at that age, especially when they're doing something like competing, in an environment like that. And my dad used to give me books to read about learning about how to deal with fear, and nerves and things. And in that book, it taught me all about adrenaline and using the adrenaline to fuel your performance, not to hinder it. So that really just those kinds of lessons came from my dad. And even now, we have conversations like that all the time. Even like when we're watching the football and things, you can almost tell by someone's body language when they go up to take a penalty, whether they're going to score, whether they're going to miss.
Yeah.
And we have those conversations now, like he's going to crumble, or this guy, he ain't missing that penalty. So we have the conversation all the time.
Yeah, I mean, confidence is king at the end of the day, isn't it? Like, it's so important.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I just feel like now that you mentioned all that, it's so strange because we both grew up in British schools. It's so strange, yeah, that isn't taught in our curriculum, how to
Yeah.
deal with anxiety at a young age. And now that mental health is such a big thing now, you'd think that would be part of the curriculum, no? It's a bit silly, like going off
You would do. Yeah. I think there's a lot of things that I'd change about the schools and the curriculum, and that's definitely one of them. There's barely any life skills in there. It's just things that you're given to you so you can go and pass a test at the end, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're learning things about being a better person, being a better human, being able to cope with pressure scenarios, and at some point in life, everyone's going to come up in a scenario like that, whether it be, a world title fight or whether it be a job interview. You're going to get those feelings. So you've got to know how to overcome them. And I think it definitely should be something that the schools put into practice.
Definitely. How do you deal with anxiety going into a fight? So I've actually interviewed two karate combat world champions. It was Melinda and Sam Alvey, and they both said, I don't get anxious before a fight. So I was like, is this a karate thing? Do you guys not get anxious? Do you get anxious, or how do you deal with it?
For me, I just go back to what I use the same things as what we were just talking about. I think
Same
I've
thing,
been I've been there. Those guys as well. They're experienced. They've been doing this a long time. They've been in those situations thousands of times, and I'm no different. I've been in these situations many times, and I just look every time that that feeling starts to kick in. You just gotta realize this is a massive opportunity, and look at the possibilities and the positives, not just thinking about what might happen if I get knocked out, what might happen if I lose this fight. That's just a negative way of thinking, and all that's going to result in is a negative performance. So I always just look at what's in front of me. Okay, I've got a massive chance here to go and do something amazing, and that's why you feel that way. And it's up to you how this fight goes. Is up to you how what the result is. So I take total control over it and go out there and try and use it to my advantage. I use that adrenaline to make me sharper, to make me faster, to make me a little bit stronger than my opponent, rather than let it take over my whole brain.
Yeah, definitely. So changing gears a little bit, what was the inspiration behind opening up a full-time martial arts center in Wellington?
Yeah, really, that came about for. I always wanted to do it. I always wanted my own school when I was younger as well. That was another. I wanted to be a professional fighter, and I wanted to have a school as well. So it came about really. COVID forced our hand a little bit, because when COVID happened at that time, I was teaching a couple of days a week at my now business partner's gym. I was just teaching classes a couple of days a week, whilst I would be at competitions every weekend. I'd be fighting in Mexico, Guatemala, I'd be in Hawaii, I'd be in Chicago, I was doing seminars all over the place. Like, I was literally just doing that and competing. And when COVID happened, I couldn't travel. There was no competitions going on. There was literally nothing. So my whole life kind of got flipped upside down to, well, now rather than getting on planes, you're stuck indoors. There's nothing you can do. So when that happened, obviously I was still training, but I thought I'm not going to waste this time. I'd rather put this time to use and try and plan for the future. So what we did was we came up with the idea that let's open a martial arts school after COVID, and let's start planning it now. So all throughout COVID, we were planning. We were, going on the internet, looking at places that we could rent and things, and talking with Lee about how we're going to implement certain things at the club. And we planned all that out in that time. And by the time that the restrictions were kind of getting lifted, we were ready to start opening the school. So it's not something that I would have done until a later time had COVID not happened. But because COVID happened, it kind of forced my hand. And honestly, it was the best. Not that COVID was an enjoyable experience for me, but it definitely. I'm really glad that that's one of the positives that came out of COVID.
Yeah, definitely. And I've spoken to so many fighters around that COVID period because we started the podcast then. And I felt like the main kind of thing that they learned, it was a moment of self-discovery. So a lot of people discovered something about themselves during that time. Is there anything that you discovered about yourself, going forward after COVID?
I think I don't know if it made me discover anything new, but I think it definitely made me realize that sometimes you just got to do something. You just got to go for it. Do you know what I mean? Because you never know when you're going to get that chance. What if another pandemic happened or something? Where the world stops. So I think it just kind of hit home to me that when you've got an opportunity to do something, don't sit on it. Don't waste time. Just go for it and figure it out. And that's what we did with the school. And I wouldn't look back now. There's no way that I go back to just teaching a couple of days a week and stuff. Like, I absolutely love my school and I love the job that I have. I've basically got my dream job of what I wanted as a kid. I'm fighting professionally, and I'm also teaching at my own school. So I couldn't ask for more.
Definitely, mate. 100%. Living the dream, man. That's the most
Yeah.
important thing. I find it criminal that you're not more well known in the UK. Why do you feel like combat sports, in general, isn't as celebrated in the UK? And I'll give you an example. So British boxing, I feel like, that's probably, it's a revered sport. If you're a world champion in that, you're revered. But for example, Michael Bisping, he was the first English UFC champion, nothing, not even a knighthood. Why do you think that is?
I think because MMA is a new sport, I think that boxing's been here for a long time. So and boxing's almost like a part of British culture. The British fans love boxing. It's just how it is. However, I do see an uprise in the MMA now. I think there are new things. The good things are coming out in the UK, definitely, and it's starting to grow in popularity. But I still think it's got a ways to go in compared to boxing. But it would be nice to start seeing some of these guys that are from my kind of background getting more recognition. But that's something we've been from the sport karate world, we've been battling that for many years. We've got so many talented fighters that usually end up jumping ship and going different places because they want that recognition. They want to make it into the limelight. And sometimes in our sport we don't get the we don't really get the we don't get that from people. So it's nice to be respected and to be in that situation where all eyes are on you. And but I think it's getting there. I think it's slowly people are starting to open their eyes a bit more to the MMA and things like that. But we'll see how it goes.
Definitely, man. Definitely. 2 questions before we get on out of here. Completely different question here. You've been to a lot of countries. You've been to Thailand, Hawaii, Mexico, Hungary, Cyprus. List goes on. What is your favorite holiday destination so far?
Oh, favorite holiday destination. I think I'd have to say Hawaii, because it's just I think when you've been there, you've just seen natural beauty, beauty, just absolutely gorgeous views and stuff, and you've got oceans, you've got mountains, you've got tropical areas. You've got the beautiful beaches. Like it's amazing, you know. So I'd say Hawaii. I actually went there the first time to teach a seminar because I've got close friends in Hawaii. So I went over there, taught a seminar at their gym, and had like a little bit of a holiday as well on the side. So that was good. And then 18 months ago, me and my dad went back. I took my dad with me because I was like, Dad, you know, you've got to come with me to see this. And we kind of planned a little trip. We did San Francisco, then we did Hawaii, and then we did Los Angeles as well. So we kind of like bounced around a little bit. But and my dad thought the same as me about Hawaii. It's just incredible. That's the best place I've ever been.
So many people have said that I need to go at some point. You know,
yeah, it's definitely one of those bucket list places. You know, you have to visit, definitely.
100%, man. But final question for you, Elijah: where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
I definitely see myself as the lightweight champion in karate combat. I think maybe even in a shorter time than 5 years. I want to stay active. I want more fights, and I know that I need more challenges. But I think over the next 1 to 2 years, I want to build my record up. I want to get those high level rounds in, and by that time, I'll be looking to go for the belt, challenge for the belt, and really dominate this karate combat scene. And then after we've done that in karate combat, then we'll look at other things, you know. But I think by that time, karate combat might be like one of the top leagues in the world. There's people definitely putting a lot of pressure on me to jump onto the MMA scene as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, the people that I'm training with, you know, are some of the best MMA guys in the world. Like I train here with my coach Yannick at Corfit. There's some great sparring people here, but then I go over also to Renegade and spar the guys there at Renegade, and you've got, you know, Leon Edwards and Fabian Edwards and Arnold Allen and, you know, top UFC guys that I'm sparring each week as well. So I am sparring MMA guys consistently. So you never know. It's not something that's like on the agenda right now, but you said 5 years. Yeah, I might jump ship. You never know.
Hey, you might be a 2-sport world champion, man. You never know.
That would be cool, wouldn't it? That would be very cool.
That would be fucking awesome, man. That would be fucking awesome. But look, thank you so much, Elijah, for coming on the show. You're an awesome guest. I'm going to give you the final word, though. Tell the folks where they can find you. Plug anything that you'd like to plug. Any sponsors, go for it, man. It's your spotlight.
Oh, I appreciate that, mate. Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram as my main social media platform, and it's just Elijah_Everill. And also check out, if you're interested in point fighting, especially for those karate guys, then go onto my bio. There's a link there for World Champion Academy Online. It's a new online training program that I've just released in partnership with Sports Performance Solutions. So it's basically an app that you download, and you get access to 4 different training sessions. These are sessions that I actually do all the time, or especially when I was point fighting, I was doing them all the time. And it's got everything from footwork to punching to blitzing to kicking to conditioning work. So if you're interested in improving your game and you want to learn some of the drills that I do, then you can go and check that out in my bio.
Awesome. Links will be down below as well, guys. But thank you so much, Elijah.
No, thank you, mate. Really appreciate it. Thank you.